Hey John, good start here. So I just wanted to show you a couple little things here that I would suggest. The first thing, sometimes it's easier to see what you're doing if you add a layer to the bottom, and I'm just going to click it here and just fill it with white. It just sometimes makes it a lot easier to see. So I'm just doing that now. And again, whatever color's here, and then my paintbrush always disappears too. Just a second. Since I installed this new update, I have to look through all this stuff every time. I need to organize it better. Well, since I have to do this anyway, I might as well show you. So right here, if you click this, oh, there's my paint bucket right there. But let's go back to, see, I don't know why it's under there. If you go back to this edit toolbar, this window will come up here, and then you can really organize your tools however you use them. And see, I don't know why they put the paint bucket under this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the paint bucket here, because usually the tools are grouped kind of based on what they do. So here's the paint bucket tool. So I'm just going to bring this over to by the gradient tool, because that's what I'm used to working with in the older versions. And again, now you see how it's on top. If you wanted the gradient tool to be on top, just drag it up. And then it will be on top usually, but I'm just going to keep the paint bucket up here like this. So back to what I was saying, and then I'm just going to say done. So there's the paint bucket. So now this is white here, so I'm just going to fill the background. It just makes it easier to see. And then also you can see kind of where you need to clean up your masks through here. Pretty rough, but that's okay for the first week. And these are pretty rough through here too, but that's common because we're still working on this for a lot longer. So I would just suggest still working with the arrangement of objects and the scale. You might want to find a better crinkly kind of fry, something that you can really see the shadows in, or you could find something else. You could use an onion ring or something like that. Not a requirement, just trying to make suggestions. Because you've got a lot of very similar colors through here, so you might want to think of something that you could add to have give it some variety. So another thing I just want to show you is if you select all of these layers like this, and I'm going to hold the, oh, you forgot to do your mask on your sandwich. Be sure to get that done, because you don't want to lose points for that. And just get it done by the end of the week, because you need to see layer masks for all of these. But anyway, so I'm going to select all these layers, and then I'm just going to, whoops, and then I'm going to click this folder icon down here, and it's going to put them all in a folder, right? So then it makes it really easy to move the whole thing around. And I would also suggest sizing it. So I'm going to size the whole thing with the free transform tool. And if you hold the shift key down, it will constrain their proportions. And that's kind of a cool thing to do. And usually what I do is I group like things, and when I do text, I will also group them. And you can change the name of this to like, whatever you want to name them, like caricature. I'm just going to say carrot because I don't want to spell it all out. And then you can also even color the layers down here if you wanted to. There's just a couple things you can do to keep yourself organized. I tend to make my text folder one color. So just a couple little suggestions, and I'm going to open this up. And so for the corn dog, again, you might want to think of rotating stuff. I mean, obviously, we're nowhere near being done with this, right? So I'm just going to be moving stuff around like this. So, and if you want this to look like it's closer, just make it bigger, because then it's going to really come forward, right? So, and I'm not saying to do this or anything, but I'm saying that whatever you want to look, to give it depth, because this is still very head-on, which makes it look kind of static. Everything's viewed from just head-on one-point perspective. That's why I was trying to get you guys to kind of look at some of these, ones that went more from a side view than they used perspective, again, to make, to add depth. Like you can see how much bigger that wheel is. So, and I'm not saying this is what you want to do. So actually, I'm going to undo this. Actually, you can make it go. And again, if you want to undo stuff, other ways, you can go into window history. and then I can just go back right through and get rid of my transform, and there's back to what you had. So that would be some main suggestions so it doesn't look so static. I mean, there's things you can do to make the can look like it's bigger on one side. So I have the can selected here. And then if you go up into the edit menu and say transform and say perspective, you can drag the one side and make it bigger like this, right? You know, now this is obviously sloppy, right? And it's going to add some perspective. Again, you can make it smaller too. So then, you know, it doesn't really work that well with this particular can. But this is using the perspective tool is actually, you know, pretty cool tool. So that would be my main suggestion, is just some variety. Everything's kind of really symmetrical. You know, just really look at, you know, and again, if the sandwich had a little bit more depth, maybe you can make the sandwich smaller. That would probably actually work too. Let me see where this is again. If you wanted to make that side a little bit smaller, see, that works a little bit better on that, but still it'd be better to have a different image. And then again, you would have to make this olive, you know, bigger too, because again, but then I'm not going to use the perspective. I'm just going to make it bigger. And then again, when you start using scale, then you start getting depth. Now you can tell this kind of looks like it's further away, right? Because it's smaller. So just some things to think about. I mean, that means this would be, you know, that means this would be a lot bigger, this fry here. Let me, where is it? Dun, 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 dun. Hey, you might want to do some searches for some better fry images. I think you could find just some singular ones that you could really use. You know, and again, I would really think about, you know, all the different ways to rotate it, just to give it some personality. You know, because if it's just, like I say, everything symmetrical tends to look static. So then I'm going to make this one bigger, just again, because this one's bigger, right? So, and again, so this is just the way we go about building the caricature. You know, you could look for a more interesting can as well. You know, like if you look at some of those, like, vintage Campbell soup cans, that might be more fun to use. I mean, I don't know, vintage, Campbell soup. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that's a drawing. You can't use a drawing, and those look like some Andy Warhol things. But again, if you just search, I should say can, huh, because it's be more specific. You know, I mean, this is a little bit simpler, and it's just you can't use this one because it has this watermark on it, but this is a little simpler, and I think it just might be a little bit stronger for what you're doing. You know, it's just going to come across as, because this, you know, this has a lot of detail, and we're going to be adding text too, so this is going to be starting to look a little bit cluttered. So you might want to just find a simple can. And, you know, this is the real, like, you know, traditional can that everyone really, you know, recognizes. So again, or you can just go, I don't know, I think they still kind of sell these, right? You could actually go photograph them. And here's another kind of thing, looking at it from the side. But again, this is some art piece. Again, a lot of research is usually done in, you know, when we're you know, creating our designs. And this is what I mean by angle of view. See how we're looking down at this? You could try something like this too, because then, and again, there's the perspective. See how much bigger the top is than the bottom? That's because it's closer, because you're looking down. So anyway, I'm blabbing way too long, but I do try to show you some stuff every week about how to organize, you know, the layers and stuff. Whoops. And, you know, folders is a really good way to deal with stuff as well. And again, you could even try a different olive too. Like I said, it doesn't have to be so symmetrical. You know, I know it's easier in terms of you know, this assignment this week, but anyway, just some suggestions. Yeah, I hope you found it useful, and really, so far so good though. I mean, this is kind of the suggestions I make every week. But for in terms of this assignment, you did a really great job. So yeah, there's some suggestions for, you know, to create a strong as possible portfolio piece. Okay.